We had two sisters that were here.
Oh, Sophie and Vicky?
What? Sophie.
Sophie, what's the last name?
Bruchberger.
No way she got engaged?
Yeah.
Wow.
Was she here last year?
She came for a little while, for a few weeks maybe. The two sisters, they were both here. They were Machon Halton.
Yeah.
Good morning, good morning. Good morning. We're continuing with the Mamar today.
Yay.
Okay, we're going to start with Yud Ches, Eis Yud Ches, back to the Mamar of Ani Nasati from Topshin Daled, which is from the Frierdiker Rebbe, Sefer Mamar Topshin Daled, 1944. So he finished describing the 5 different weapons that we need in davening: the sword, the bow and arrow, the club, the spear, and the shield. And now I'm going to elaborate that a little bit more. Yud Ches. V'hinei, im hayos, daved the tefillah b'charbi b'kashti. Even though we already explained that the avodah of davening is an avodah that we need tools. One of them is a sword, one is a bow and arrow. The Targum, as the Targum translates it to mean Salusi Ba'usi, which is my davening. Ubederech Prat, and being more specific, there are 5 weapons. Generally speaking, there are 2 weapons. Being more specific, there are 5 weapons. Nevertheless, the sword that's in the davening, Nikra Cherev Shel Shalom. It's called a sword of peace, not a sword of war. What does that mean? There's a pasuk in Chumash, Parshas Bahar, where Hashem says that the Yidden will observe all the laws, and specifically observe the laws of the land, which means to rest every 7th year, the Shemitah, and the other laws related to the land. Then you'll have peace, and so on and so forth. But the words are, and a sword will not pass through your country. So the Gemara says, what kind of, not even a sword of peace. What is a sword of peace? If it's a sword, it's not peace. If it's peace, there's no swords. Thank you. So the answer is, the Gemara says, a sword of war means when there are swords there because someone is waging war with this country. The sword of peace means sometimes there's a situation where soldiers are going to another country or to another place, but they're passing by your place. You give them permission to pass by. In today's language, it would be one country gives another country the airspace that their missiles can fly by their country to do whatever they want to do. But even though no one's waging war with Eretz Yisrael, but Hashem promised them, you won't even see the war, a sword of peace, which means even to see a sword that goes through another country, they're not going to fight here, but they're fighting somewhere else. Even that little bit of lack of peace you won't see, because if you see swords, it already takes away from the feeling of peace and relaxation. People who grew up in Israel don't even realize it, but someone who comes from America, goes to Israel, and wherever they walk, there's people walking around with machine guns. It doesn't make you feel very relaxed, at least in the beginning. So even though, and over there, actually, but this person's not shooting anybody, just holding it in his hand. But the fact that they just see a weapon of war is already not that. So what he's saying is that the davening, even though it's a sword, but it's a sword of peace. So when is the war, and what does it mean it's a sword of peace? So he's going to explain that during davening, it's a sword of peace. The war itself is actually after davening. That's the real war. Let's see inside. The war is when you're eating, when you're drinking, or other physical bodily things that we need and that we do. That's where there's a war where we have to overcome the Yetzer Hara. That's when we're out in the field really dealing with the Yetzer Hara. So in other words, a person is davening, even though he's dealing with his Yetzer Hara to make good achlatas, but the actual war is when he's in business and he has a challenge. Should he be honest or dishonest on what he's doing now? And that's where you have to overcome the Yetzer Hara. He's in business and he has to do business with somebody who is very big, and that person wants to meet with him in a restaurant which is not kosher, and it's going to create challenges with eating. So he's actually dealing with actual challenges, dealing with the challenges of tznius. Not in shul when he's sitting with a talus over his head and wrapped in tefillin and a siddur in front of him. The milchama is when you're out there in the place, which is the time of war. So what's the shul? When I'm davening, davening is a preparation for later. That's why davening is called a cherev shel shalom, sword of peace, and out there is the sword of war. So he's going to talk about eating specifically, about food. Sorry to ruin your appetite, but here we go. Hine, Isa b'zayar. The Zohar says, Nama apum charba lechum. This is all Aramaic. Nama means bread. Apum charba means by the sword. Lechel, you eat. In fact, the Rebbe once said, I think that his father of Levi Yitzchak, of course, all people that eat properly have a fork and a knife. He would have a fork and a knife, but the reason why he had a knife was because the Zohar says that eating food is like going to war. So you have to have a sword in your hand. That's the knife. Shas achilu, shas mocham. It's a war. You do as its own. The whole in achila, the whole purpose of eating food from the Torah perspective, and from the way we understand it in the hidden secrets of Torah, the Indian of eating food is levarer hanitzutz, the tohu shenoflu b'hamaychel, to elevate the sparks of tohu that fell in this physical food. Those sparks that are elevated, which means I eat the food the proper way, which is making a bracha before, making a bracha after. I'm careful that the food that I'm eating is kosher, and I eat it in a more refined way, with a refined intention. Then I'm elevating those sparks, and those sparks that I elevate, meisifim chayis ba'adam, they actually add more life, and they enhance our situation spiritually. This is what our sages say in Gemara Brachos. What does the sages say? When the Beis Mikdash was standing, the Mizbeach brought atonement. He brought a carbon on the Mizbeach, and that brought atonement. And now, your table in your kitchen or your dining room, that brings atonement. And he asks the question, how is that possible? How could it be that shulchan has become a mizbeach, that a table in my humble house, ordinary home, should be in the place of the mizbeach that was in the Beis Hamikdash? But the Indian is the mash mizbeach mechaper. How is it? What's the connection that you bring a sacrifice of an animal, a mizbeach, and my sins get forgiven? What's the connection? The connection is by bringing a gashmi, like a behema, putting the meat of this animal on the mizbeach. The root of the behema comes from the world of tohu. Which is higher than the world of tikkun. Which is the world of tikkun?
Our world. Second.
Our world is part of it, but it begins with Atzilus. Atzilus is called the world of tikkun. From there on, everything is tikkun. Tikkun means that it's an order, and tohu means chaos. So it comes from a higher world. But they fell lower. So this is always what gets everybody confused. We got to keep reminding ourselves, is it higher or is it lower? It is lower. There's no question that it's lower. But the roots where it's coming from is higher. And where is it coming from? The world of Tohu. I prepared it for the other Maimer, but we have it ready for now. So let me give this out. And just to have a visual of the worlds. And now you know where Tohu is coming from. Okay. Anna, thank you very much.
Which comes from the food? You said it comes from it comes from a higher source.
Yes, the food comes from a higher source. But while we're at it, we'll just point out what we learned in the previous Maimer. So if you look at this chart here, it basically describes that just like there are 4 worlds of Kedusha, there are 4 worlds of Klippa. So Kedusha, you look at the bottom, the Shalakis, Mezuzah, Tefillin, and all the things that have holiness to it. Where does it come from? Asiya, Yitzira, Bria, Atzilus, Keser, stop. That's as far as it goes. That's the root of all things in Kedusha. Then we look at the other side, which is Klippa. Where does Klippa come from? It goes higher than Keser, it goes into the world of Tohu. So the source of Klippa is higher than the source of Kedusha. However, we learned in the previous Maimer that there are 3 kinds of Klippa. There's Klippa, which is impermissible things. That comes from the world of Tohu. There's Klippa in things that are prohibited, comes from the world of Tohu. And there's Klippa in a Nisayan. And if you look at the chart, what do we see? Permissible things come from one place in Tohu. Things that are prohibited come from a higher place in Tohu. And Nisayan, which is the lowest, comes from the highest place in the world of Tohu. So therefore, when a person brings a carbon, one of the most difficult things to understand is carbon. People don't get it. I think I mentioned to you, there are certain people that even have this idea in their head, when Mashiach comes, will no longer have carbon. And why do they think so? Because they think that carbon is not a nice thing, not a good thing. Hashem say to sacrifice an animal, but it's because we don't understand it. In Kabbalah, it says that it's a deep, deep, deep secret. It says that the secret of carbon goes to Ein Sof, to the infinite light of Hashem. But the little bit that we are told is that there are sparks of godliness from Tohu in this animal that's bringing a carbon. And when I bring it on the Mizbeach, those sparks get elevated. Let's look inside. So then I draw down the light of Tohu in this world of Tikkun, and liyers, and because the Tohu, the lights of Tohu, him the Milo of Chinas Tikkun, they're so much higher than our world, which is Tikkun. Through this, this will fill the defect that took place in the world of Tikkun. Remember, we learned in the previous Maimer that what happens when a person does an Aveira, that when a person does an Aveira, remember we learned about Hashamnu and Tshuva, that when a person does an Aveira, there's a defect. It caused a certain damage to my neshama. It also caused a certain damage spiritually. And as a result of this damage, I'm lacking spiritually, and the world is lacking spiritually. So this will be compared to a river. That was the mashal given, a river or a well, that the water dried up. So the same thing here, the godly light that's in my neshama dried up because I didn't eat matzah, I didn't say the Shema, or because I didn't put up a mezuzah. There's something spiritually lacking. So if a well or a river dries up, what can we do? what we do is we dig deeper into the ground, because when you dig deep enough, you'll definitely hit water. And once you dig deep enough, the water rises and it fills up the well or the river, everything's back the same. Spiritually, the same thing. That's what we learned in the Mamar when we were learning about tshuva, and it's Tzemach Tzedek. That when we do tshuva, we reach in a place that's higher than the world of Atzilus. And then when that higher light shines, it fills all the things that are lacking, all the places that became void or dried up. So the same thing here. We bring a carbon, which has the sparks of tow. When we bring down the sparks of tow, it fills up the gap. Whatever is missing in me or in the world gets filled up. And that is the tikkun for the avera that I did. When a person brought a carbon, they did tshuva, they had to do that. The question was, but how could I correct the damage? The damage was done. And there's something in my neshama that's now that's broken or not well, if you use that analogy, and there's something in the world that's that way. So the answer is we draw down a higher light that comes from the world of Toh, and therefore doesn't have the limitations of this world. And when that light comes down, it fills up whatever was lacking from before. That's what happens when you bring a carbon in the Beis Hamikdash. Yeah.
Whenever we do teshuva, is it always when it's light's going down, it's always coming from tohu?
Generally speaking, yeah. But here, through the physical act of the carbon, we're able to accomplish that. So, of course, we can't just do it stam. There's a lot of halachas. How you bring a carbon, what could be brought as a carbon, what way you do it. But when you do this in the Beis Hamikdash, the holiest place in the world, so therefore it'll be happening on the highest level it could possibly be. Do as it's known, in order to fill, chisaron means whatever's lacking, whatever's deficient, the gap. Something has to shine, a light, which is so much higher that this could compensate for whatever it is that's missing. And therefore, the same would apply here. By having the light of the world of Tohu shining openly, so whatever is lacking, whatever is deficient, gets filled up. That's what the Mizbech did in the Beis Hamikdash. So now he's going to explain that the same would apply to me in my home and my eating food on my table. Of course, on a smaller scale, but the idea is the same idea. In the same way, the table, meaning the place where I eat food, if I eat it properly, it's like bringing a carbon and accomplish the same thing. This food on my table also has sparks of tohu, and by me making a bracha, I'm elevating it, and I'm drawing down the sparks from the world of tohu into my home, and as a result of that, it also brings atonement to me. This explains something which is otherwise very hard to understand. It's almost shocking. Hashem made it that a person can't live without tzameach or chai, either animals or vegetables. If we don't eat anything from the animal kingdom and we eat nothing from the vegetable kingdom, person can't survive. A human being is the highest on this ladder. There's Daimon Tzemei Chai Medaber. Medaber is the highest level. Shulamai Lahar B'Madreget Tzemei L'Chai is so much higher. It's not just human beings are high. It's a different caliber. A human being is a different caliber than a vegetable, and even a different caliber than animals. And Eichu, how is it that Mekabel Chayes Midaber Shalamata M'Men Madreget? How could it be that something that's lower than me and less than me, which means it's a lesser quality, how could that be the thing that gives me life? The answer is because things that are from the vegetable kingdom or the animal kingdom, plant kingdom, they are lower, but their roots are higher. A human being comes from the world of tikkun, but things that from the plant kingdom or the animal kingdom, they come from the world of tohu. Shekadam b'mayla latikun, and the world of Tohu is higher than the world of Tikkun. It fell lower, it's further away, but it comes and originates from a place which is so much higher. So when a person eats
But the part of us that makes us different from, like, the reason we can elevate is because we have a nefesh elokis, but the nefesh elokis is from a higher place than where the food is and tell you, right?
no, Nefesh comes from Atzilus.
Comes from Kesser.
First of all, in Tanya it says it comes from Chochmah of Atzilus, the second chapter of Tanya.
Right, but the first mimer we learned, the Tzemach one, says
It goes all the way up to Keser, but not Tohu. That's why I made this chart, so you know where you're coming from.
that says that.
You're right here, Keser.
Yeah, that is Tayu.
No, this is Keser, and Tohu, it's not the source.
The Adam Kadmoi or whatever,
I pointed the wrong chart over here.
that's Kedusha though.
This is Keser, right? That's Nefesh Elokis.
And the food also comes from Kesser?
No, the food comes from higher than Keser, from Tohu.
They're both Tohu. Oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, wow, that's crazy. I thought you said that Tohu started with Atzilus though.
No. Tohu is higher than Keser. It's part of the infinite realm. But you're asking a good question. So you tell me that this spaghetti is higher than my Nefesh Elokis? Okay, let me go at it.
That's true?
That's what it says in the Bible.
Okay.
But still hard to grasp. Basically, in the parshas we're learning now, what does it talk about in the Maimorim? How Esau comes from a higher source than Yaakov. And Yaakov tried to elevate Esau. So there's a secret here. The secret is it's off the chart. You know the expression? It's off the chart. It's higher than this chart. So the way it's put into words, I'm not going to explain it now, but the way it's put into words is the source of the nefesh of the things in Klippa is higher than the source of Kedusha. But the source of the source, which is over here, Kedusha is higher than Klippa.
Oh, so our nefesh is higher than the food.
Ultimately, nefesh is the higher.
Is that Ein Sof? What would that be?
Yeah, Ein Sof is over here. Ein Sof means infinite. Really, once you say infinite, there shouldn't be any levels. But guess what? In Chassidus, there's infinite levels in the infinite.
But
Yeah.
what's higher than tofu? What's it called?
It's called, there's a few names, there's a few levels there. One is called Adam Kadmon. One is called Akudim. Then there's and Sof Shalifne Hatzimtzum. And then there's this Pashtus and there's Etzma and then there's more. Yeah, you need GPS. Before you get in the rocket ship, you need GPS, how you're going to get to these places. Okay, so that's the answer. Just have in mind those words. The source of Klippa and Nefesh Baham is Esav is higher than Yaakov and higher than Kedusha. But it feels so uncomfortable to hear those words. So the answer is, but the source of the source, ultimately, Kedusha is higher than Klippa.
But the source of the source is really just the source.
Okay, now you want more explanation. So that we'll get, when we get to a mimer that talks about that. Now, there's a reason why you call it the source of the source. Obviously, it's not the direct source. The direct source is this. The higher worlds, you can't even call it the source of what's down here. It's the source of the source.
It's like how no.
Oh, we're going to get lost, so we'll continue. But B'li or one-on-one, I'll try to explain it more. Okay. So it's a shocking thing, and the answer is because the source, the roots of the nefesh of the food is higher, and because it's from the word of tohu. That word stands for Shem Shemayim. When a person eats the food with heavenly intentions, which is eats it with the intentions to elevate the sparks. There's actually it's a difference between, normally you say that you can serve Hashem in everything you do. Even when you eat food, even when you're buying clothing, you're buying a house, you're serving Hashem. Why? Because whatever you do, you're saying, I'm eating food, I should be healthy, I can serve Hashem. But the difference is, in that case, you're eating the food, but you're doing it as a means to an end that I should be able to serve Hashem. A person who's on a higher level that sits down to eat food and is thinking and their intention is to elevate the spark, it's not I'm eating the food and it's going to lead to enhance my serving Hashem. The eating the food itself is serving Hashem. I'm elevating spiritual sparks. You understand the difference? One of them is doing this, it'll lead to something which is godly. I'm eating food, it'll lead to something which is godly. I'll be stronger and I can daven and learn Torah. This we're saying is, no, if you have this kavanah, you're actually elevating spiritual sparks. And by doing that, which is, Mavarach Lav Tchila V'Sof, I make the bracha first, before eating, V'Sof, after eating, Aydei Zeh Mizbarim HaNitzutzes D'Toyu, we elevate the sparks of Torah Sheba Michael, and these sparks, Nichlolim B'Nefesh Adam, they now are absorbed by my neshama, Meisifim by Kayir B'Chayis. So now my Nefesh Elokis gets something which is higher than itself. It gets the sparks of Torah. So as a result of eating, my Nefesh of Bahamas becomes stronger. It's brought down in my Mamar that there was, it's also brought down in Tanya, where someone was asked a question, and he said, if, after I eat, I'll be able to answer you the question. The simple meaning is, I'm tired, or I'm feeling weak, I'll eat some food, I'll be able to answer the question. No, it meant I'll eat food, and then I'll be getting the sparks of Tohu, so that will enhance my ability to understand something in Torah which I couldn't understand before. So people have to be very cautious with their food, with eating. So all the health people also tell us to be very cautious with our eating. But they're telling us to make sure that we eat healthy foods. And to a certain extent, our health depends so much on what we eat. And when you eat healthy foods, meaning I pick up two items. One is more tasty. In fact, in most cases, the really healthy foods are not the most tasty ones. You don't have people's mouth watering from a carrot stick, But a chocolate Danish, that might do the job. And nevertheless, I should focus on not only if I don't eat healthy food, that I won't be able to become stronger. Not healthy food could affect a person in a negative way. But here is talking about a spiritual caution, that food could bring a person down spiritually, or could actually raise the person to a much higher place spiritually. A person should think that they're doing it, eating food to elevate the sparks. I'm eating the food with the intention that it's l'shem shamayim. I'm eating food to be healthy and strong, so I could daven, I could learn. It shouldn't be just to fulfill the desires of my soul. In other words, just for pleasure. Then it's going to accomplish these good things. What happens when a person eats food and is eating it specifically and exclusively because just to satisfy my taiva, my desires? First of all, by doing that, he's sort of going down, he's descending from his level. He's a medaber, he's a person. He belongs to the fourth category, which is human kingdom. But when he's eating the food, he goes down to the level of the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom. Why is he going down to that level? Because they're becoming his mashpia. They're giving him life, and they're giving him enjoyment. They're giving him pleasure. So basically, I am receiving from them. A receiver always is lower than the giver. There's actually a story with the Baal Shem Tov. Yes.
How is I mean, we are getting light from them, like that is the whole point, they are higher than us. So why is it wrong to be makabel to them, and I'm not saying to like,
Now,
be
if I'm
gluttonous.
eating the food L'Shem Shemayim, I'm connecting to that which is in them that's higher than me, the spark hope. But if I'm eating the food and I'm just enjoying the pleasure of the food itself, that part is lower. Remember, the source is higher, but it in itself is lower.
right,
Remember, like the mushroom with the rock. I throw a rock. So the actual rock could be 20 feet away from me, but the energy that I had to invest and get the rock so far away comes from a deeper place, but the rock is still distant from me. So basically, if I'm eating food for pleasure, that means I'm connecting to the way the food is begashmi. It's not the spark. So it's lower. This is a story with the Baal Shem Tov, that there were times where he sometimes would tell his students to put their hands on each other's shoulder. And those two students who stood next to him, they would put their shoulders on the Baal Shem Tov, or he put his shoulders on them, and they formed a chain. And then he would tell them to close their eyes, and they would be able to see what the Baal Shem Tov sees. Full circuit, you know. So there's a few stories like that. But one of the stories was that they were sitting by the Shabbos table, and they all gasped because they saw an ox sitting by the table with a shtreimel. It was a very weird scene. And the Baal Shem Tov said that when a person eats food with a passion, he becomes like the food. So what they saw was the reality. They saw an ox. The shtreimel didn't change, of course, it's one of the Shabbos garments, so it doesn't change. But the person became an ox. So it's better if we don't close our eyes. Yeah.
But isn't it always a little bit of pleasure when we eat or drink? Like, for example,
Never heard of such a thing.
after running, is that really
I
good?
never heard of it. We eat, only think about Hashem and the sparks and so on.
But I don't know, like you run a lot and then you're thirsty, you're gonna drink the cup of water. You need it, physically need the
I'm-
water.
I'm going to explain this. This is one of the places when you do this in Tanya. I think Rabbi Pape didn't get there yet, but this is one of the places in Tanya. How could this be? Look what he's saying. The next word, oidzes, is something worse than that. Yered lamata yesa, the food becomes even lower than it was before. Before the food was pasnoiga, it's permissible food. When I eat it with the wrong intentions, I'm bringing it down to the level of sholosh klippos atmeis. Yeah.
So that's just if you have the wrong intention, like even if you have, say, a bracha and you eat kosher food, but you have the wrong intention,
Right.
it's bringing it to Sitra.
Right. You know, maybe I'll give my introduction before we go further. Otherwise, everyone's going to run out of the room. So let me try to explain this.
Wow.
There's a lot of things in Tanya that sometimes you just wonder, you say, what am I learning about this? I'll never be on this level of love and this level of fear, or this about food, not eating food, not enjoying. We're human beings. And not only that, there are a lot of things that even though it isn't Tanya, it doesn't apply to us. We're at a different level, we're in a different place. And very often people that try to do kind of things like this actually hurt themselves spiritually. I need more time to explain it, but I want to just give an introduction. There was once a chassid that said something very profound. It was a different kind of a question. He was asking, why do we tell stories of the Rebbes or big chassidim? You know, we're nowhere near where they were, and we'll never be there. We know who we are. So why do we tell these stories if we never reach that level anyway? So he said in Yiddish, I'll say it as he said and I'll explain it. Am a vase wie me darf sein, helft es sein wie me ken sein. Which means, if you know the way you should be, that'll help us be the way we could be. In other words, when we know that this is the way things are supposed to be for people on the highest of level, I'll make more of an effort to at least reach the level that I could reach. I always think of this example because it was really fascinating when I heard the story. Someone told me he's in construction, he has people that work for him. The people that work for him are good for the work that they do, but they're not the most highest class people. So one time, one of the workers said to him, Rabbi, I'm really a good man. I would tell you, I never killed anybody and I was never in jail. I said, yeah, you're a good man. Okay. I said to myself, imagine if anybody was in this class, we'd have graduation, and I'm introducing you, and I'm saying, I want to introduce one of our students. I want to tell you, she never killed anybody. He was never in jail. But everybody clapped their hands. Like I think, who is this lady? So how could a person be proud that they never killed anybody or they're never in jail? How does it make sense? The answer is, obviously they live in a neighborhood or they're around people that do kill somebody once in a while, and people do end up in jail, and therefore him not to do that and not to be in jail is considered an achievement, an accomplishment, something to be proud of. If he'd be living amongst people that are on a higher level, amongst doctors and lawyers and professors and people that are educated and they've accomplished things that are real accomplishments, he wouldn't say that. That would mean nothing. So basically, because these people who he lives around, these people, it creates certain, you would say, standards. And according to those standards, I've accomplished something. But if I'm amongst people that are educated people, then I need to accomplish much more in proportion to those standards to be considered an accomplishment. So that's what it means. If I know the way it should be, it at least helped me be the way I could be. It's true, everybody's different. Everybody has different potential. But when we learn about things on the highest of levels, it gives us the strength to make the effort to be on the level that we could be. So there's definitely a level of eating that we need to be careful with. Number one, make sure the food is not kosher. Make sure that my passion for food wouldn't override my caution for kashrus. Like sometimes there's something and you look at this thing and you say, wait a second, is this kosher? I'm looking for the sign. And no, I love this thing, here, but I don't see any kosher sign. Probably it's okay because I saw somebody who I know eating it, and probably if they're eating it, probably it must be okay. Basically, what happens is because I have a passion for the food, I start making all sorts of excuses in my head that I don't need to look it up. Or like I said before, I'm in business and I'm going to meet with a business person, and there's $1 million here that we have to deal with, and he's going to bring me into this non-kosher restaurant and want me to eat things that it'll be uncomfortable not to eat. But it's going to be a lot of money, and later I can use the money to give tzedakah, and I can do some good things with the money, and it'll be okay. In other words, we have our challenges with foods that are not these challenges that are here, a much different level. But if we learn about what the ultimate goal is, it'll help us overcome our challenge. But what I just explained, I just want to say it's incomplete, and tomorrow I'll explain it a little bit better. Yes.
So the intention that we're supposed to ideally have is it true? It's to use the energy to do God's will and also to know that right now we're raising the sparks.
Yes.
Both,
Yeah.
okay.
Right, and even if I know myself that I'm enjoying the food and I like the taste, and I'm going to choose this over that, or I'll add a little bit of salt because it tastes better, which is only human, and don't stop doing that. But the mere fact that I'm even aware and I'm thinking that there's a higher purpose in eating food already makes it more refined, and that the food is not going to make the person more coarse. But we have to know where we're at and what we could do, what we can't do. But please make sure to come tomorrow. It shouldn't be half a story tomorrow. I'll explain it more. Want to say something, Hannah?
No,
Don't fast until tomorrow. Keep your schedule. Yeah.
no, I'm just thinking, but then you should only really eat like just enough, I guess, like not snacking randomly or because just you want to, right?
But even if you eat enough, you're going to show the taste of the food.
Yeah, but like, what can you do if you're enjoying it? But like,
There are people that live that way, but it's not our Aveda today.
okay,
And it doesn't mean that Chas v'shalom anything changed in Torah. It means that something changed in us.
so people don't do that?
Generally speaking, not. And women were never probably part of doing this. This was for men, not for women. I had more than once where one of my students got married for one of the Bachrim in the men's yeshiva. And it turned out that probably he was trained, which I don't think he should have done that either, not to have anything tasty. The girl's coming into the kitchen, she's getting recipes and she's making all sorts of tasty foods. And he's saying, no, you're not supposed to have any pleasure for the food. So, okay, so I'll eat it. No, you too. You got to keep shocking. But it's not our Aveda. And if it's not our Aveda, it'll do more damage than it'll do good.
Mm-hmm.
So, and tomorrow I'll explain it more. Just to give you one little bit, it's similar to the idea, the fact that we don't fast today, where years ago this was very common fasting, and that was a way of tshuva, and it accomplished amazing things. And today, not only we don't have to do it, we're not allowed to do it because we're not on that level. And the same thing applies here. To be continued. Okay.
How did this connect to the swords of peace and davening?
This is going into the idea that the real war is after davening,
Right?
when I'm sitting down to eat.
Oh, fine,
One
so
war.
that's an example.
And going to business, that's the other war. You know, the things that are going on during the day, those are the wars. The
Okay.
davening is the preparation for those wars.
Got it.
See the sparks going up?
Yes, yes. All the way.
It's a there's a ceiling here, but
And inside too. I know they're raising.
yeah. Okay, everybody, have a great day.
Thank you.
I went to this kind
Oh my god, I think 3 questions. I can't remember any.
of cheese. I need that. The whole program for young.
Oh, I remember it.
It's unbelievable, including even just the letter that he wrote to the, I said saying, don't talk to them, just
Right.
the whole 460.
Oh.
He's so impactful.
Oh, it's, I mean, it is for us. He'll be here.
And I'm gonna be on classic too. Next, this week, tomorrow, next week. I'm going. Okay.
Okay, I have another question. You also have we're learning in our coverage about how there's the source and then it loses its identity and the source of that source, and I kept getting confused, like why is there multiple sources? There's one source and then
Nice wish. Yeah, he did last week.
not coming from the original source. I'm just saying this is quick, so a little bit, yes. That are quite lower than the food. Yeah, but I just tired.
Okay, good morning, girls. Smoke out today?
Yeah,
Are they,
people are sick.
oh, they are, yeah, the weather, okay. So the way last week, they had a, my son, bar mitzvah on Sunday, so it was kind of briefly, so I asked about, thank you, both for me, and I'm taking over today, and I'll be there tomorrow as well, it's a Shem. So we're going to continue on page Nun Ches, Halacha Ches. We're in the laws of Pasakim, bread baked by a non-Jew, and we're going to go through these details. I'm also going to define how Halacha defines bread. Bread is actually defined as something coming from the 5 grains, which are wheat, oats, spelt, rye, or barley, turned into a flour substance and further turned into a dough substance. So, for example, if I take a stalk of wheat and I bake it, that's not pas. That actually wouldn't be pas yet because I didn't turn it into a flour and didn't turn it into a dough and then bake it. Okay, so pas is specifically when those conditions are met. So let's look at halacha tes and then we're going to go on. Even though he said that in many places they permitted to consume paspalta, bread baked by a non-Jew, talking about someone's doing it for sale, to sell it to the public, so there isn't that sense of closeness because they're doing it for business purposes. Many people are machmer, they're stringent even not to consume paspalta nachri. Gam chachme hakabala his hirush mimidas hachasidus ein lechol afil paspalta. Mitzad midas hachasidus, one should not consume paspalta. We have from Rav Chaim Vital, who was a Talmud of the Arizal. he brings down that the same reason that according to the revealed part of the Torah, according to Nigla, would be why we can be lenient with regarding pas palta by saying, well, ala pas adam, person needs bread to survive, that's the basic sustenance. That same reason can be the predicated to be more stringent. Because bread is our basic sustenance, we want to make sure it's going to come from a holy source. One page, nun ches on top. Okay, so we as Hasidim are stringent about many people say not to have pas palter.